Royce called me in for a meeting, and a sense of apprehension clung to my chest as I made my way to the pool hall. It was a regular haunt, but today felt different, charged with an air of foreboding. Stepping inside, the familiar sounds of clinking balls and murmured conversations washed over me, but I zeroed in on Royce seated at the far end, his eyes scanning me like a hawk eyeing its prey. "What's up, Royce?" I greeted, attempting to mask my unease. Royce leaned back, the weight of his gaze heavy. "Joseph, the reason I brought you here is that I see potential in you, talents that are hard to come by." His voice dripped with a blend of authority and something else. Was it concern? I have an intuition when it comes to recognizing those with unique capabilities. Before I could respond, he continued, his tone shifting. "But it's not me you're working for. It's your government. My job was to groom you for what's to come." His words hung in the air, pulling at my mind like a thread unraveling. I felt a chill slip down my spine. "What are you talking about?" At that moment, 5 men in crisp black suits and dark shades stepped from the smoky back room, their movements sharp and calculated. One stepped forward and introduced himself. "I'm SK." Before I could fathom the situation, 2 of the men seized me from behind, and I barely had time to react as a third man plunged a needle into my arm. Panic surged through me. I fought, but as the world swirled, my eyes grew heavy and darkness enveloped me. I awoke in a sterile glass room, my senses flooded with disorientation. The sharp scent of antiseptic assaulted my nostrils as I struggled to gather my bearings. A short moment later, a door swung open, and a figure gestured for me to follow. "Over here," he commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. He led me to a dimly lit room with a single table where a man sat, meticulously flipping through my files. "Have a seat," he instructed, his voice calm and decisive. "Do you know why you are here?" "No," I replied warily. "Let me enlighten you. You've been recruited to be a jackal for your government." His voice held an unsettling calmness as he continued. "You will have no name, no social security number. Nothing that signifies you ever existed. Royce works for us. He is a conduit, but a psychic one. He was implanted in the ghetto to help us find talent like yours, people who are willing to do what others won't." My heart thundered in my chest. "What do you mean by talent?" "You'll be trained for a purpose, Joseph. Your job is to follow orders without question," he said, his words hanging thick in the air. "If you fail, you will be replaced." A chill ran down my spine, and the weight of the reality began to sink in. "What kind of orders?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. His lips curled into a thin smile, devoid of warmth. "Assassinate," he said simply, as though discussing a mundane task. "And don't think, just act. Your training starts tomorrow." I wanted to retort, to scream and fight, but their steely resolve paralyzed me. Instead, I managed, "Any questions?" He eyed me coolly. "Yes. Why you want to pursue a life of violence? If you choose this path, it's irreversible." I hesitated, grappling with the sudden gravity of my fate. "I didn't ask for this," I finally replied, my voice shaking slightly. "Exactly. That's the point," he replied, leaning closer, eyes now glinting with something sinister. "But you will accept it. You will become a part of something much greater." I absorbed his words, plotting my escape even as my heart dropped into an abyss of despair. Moments later, the man turned, signaling for my departure. As I walked back, I overheard whisperings among the men. A fragment of a conversation drew my attention. The last one, they didn't find the body. Instead of retreating into despair, I resolved to find a way out. This placed an idea in my mind. I needed to learn their network, understand their operations. I would play their game, but I wouldn't be their pawn. The next day, training commenced, intense and merciless, blending the art of hand-to-hand combat with the psychology of manipulation. Each lesson pushed my limits, and within a month, I could feel my old self slipping away, overshadowed by the relentless Jackal emerging within me. But amongst the grueling drills, a fellow recruit caught my eye, a woman named Maya. She was fierce and independent, her spirit unquenchable even in this place of despair. As we shared stories during brief moments of downtime, I sensed that she too was plotting escape, raising the prospect of a partnership in rebellion. Together, we began to weave a plan, gathering intel and secretly mapping out the structure of the organization that had ensnared us. However, Just as we made progress, an unexpected twist unfurled. Roy suddenly appeared at the facility, his presence a ripple of tension. His arrival sent a wave of unease through the recruits, and I felt my heart race, unsure of what this meant for our plan.